Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a beautiful girl named Ogechi. She was only 20 years old, light-skinned like the golden morning sun, with eyes that sparkled like stars. Ogechi was known to be very humble and obedient. She listened to her elders, was kind to her neighbors, and helped everyone in her family. But one day, Ogechi made a mistake that changed her life. Ogechi was going to have a baby, but she was not married. When her family found out, they were filled with shame and anger. Her father, mother, and even her siblings could not bear to look at her. They felt embarrassed and decided they wanted nothing to do with her. Her mother told her, "You have brought shame upon this family, Ogechi. From now on, you are on your own." Ogechi's father simply ignored her, and her brothers and sisters would not speak to her. It was as if Ogechi was now invisible in her own home. But Ogechi had no other place to go, so she stayed in the family house. Each day, her heart ached, but she held her head up. She loved her unborn child deeply, and she was determined to protect her baby no matter what. One hot afternoon, when everyone in the house was resting, her mother called out, "Ogechi, come here." Ogechi quickly hurried to her mother, hoping she might hear something kind for once. But her mother only pointed to a pile of clothes and dishes. "You will wash all these today, and after that, you will sweep the compound, fetch water from the river, and prepare our dinner." Ogechi looked around. There was nobody else to help her, and she knew she would have to do everything alone. She felt tired already, but she knew she had no choice. So, she began with the laundry, scrubbing each piece of clothing until her hands ached. Then she washed the dishes and swept the compound, dust flying around her as she moved the broom. By the time she was done, the sun was starting to set, and her feet felt sore. But she couldn't stop. She still had to cook, with her heavy heart and tired body. Ogechi went to the kitchen. She peeled yam and cut vegetables, stirring the pot as the soup began to simmer. She could feel her baby move inside her, and she smiled for the first time that day. "Don't worry, my child," she whispered. "Mama is here. Mama will take care of you." Just then, her younger brother walked into the kitchen. He looked at her with disgust and muttered, "You should have left this house, Ogechi. You don't belong here anymore." He didn't even wait for her response before he walked out, leaving her alone once again. Tears filled Ogechi's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She finished cooking, setting the food on the table. Her family came in, sat down, and ate without even thanking her or inviting her to join them. She stood by the door, watching them eat, her heart aching but her spirit unbroken. That night, Ogechi lay down on her thin mat in the corner of the house. She hugged her stomach, thinking of the little life growing inside her. Despite all the pain and loneliness, she whispered softly, "We will make it. Mama is strong, and you, my child, will be strong too." And so, Ogechi endured, carrying the weight of her family's shame and hatred, while holding on to the love she had for her unborn child. Each day was a test of her courage, but she held on, believing that one day, things would get better. The next day, as the morning sun rose over the village, Ogechi was already up. She quietly swept the front of the house while her family still slept. She knew that if she didn't finish her chores early, her family would only find more ways to punish her. As she worked, she spoke softly to her unborn child. "Good morning, my little one. We have a long day ahead, but we'll get through it together." After sweeping, Ogechi carried her clay pot to the river to fetch water. The river was far, and her feet hurt as she walked. But she kept going, knowing there was no one else to help. When she reached the river, she knelt down, filling her pot with clear, cool water. She felt a small kick inside her belly, and it made her smile. "You're awake, my little one?" she whispered, placing a gentle hand on her stomach. "I promise I'll protect you, no matter what." As she struggled to lift the heavy pot onto her head, some women from the village walked past. They looked at Ogechi with judgment in their eyes, whispering to each other. "Look at her," one of them said. "Pregnant without a husband. What a shame." Another woman shook her head, adding, "Her poor family. They must be so embarrassed." Ogechi pretended not to hear them, though their words cut her deeply. She walked back home, the water heavy on her head, and the weight of shame even heavier in her heart. Back at the house, Ogechi continued her chores, cooking and cleaning, while her family ignored her as always. But today, something unexpected happened. Her mother's friend, an elderly woman named Ogechi, came to visit. She was known for her kindness and wisdom, and she noticed right away how tired Ogechi looked. As she sat with Ogechi's mother, she asked, "Why does Ogechi look so weary?" Ogechi's mother frowned, trying to hide her embarrassment. "She brought shame on us, Ogechi," she replied. "We don't want anything to do with her anymore." Ogechi looked deeply at Ogechi, her eyes soft with understanding. She called her over and gently held her hand. "Ogechi, my child," she said, "I can see you are hurting, but you are not alone. You are carrying a precious life inside you, and that is something to be proud of. You are strong, even if others don't see it." For the first time in what felt like forever, Ogechi felt a warmth spread through her heart. Someone understood her pain and didn't judge her. She wanted to cry, but she held back her tears, afraid to show how weak she felt. Ogechi turned to Ogechi's mother, her voice firm but kind. "Your daughter needs love and support, not shame. She made a mistake, yes, but her child is a blessing. Don't turn your back on her." Ogechi's mother looked away, ashamed, but she didn't say anything. Ogechi patted Ogechi's hand and said, "Come see me tomorrow, my dear. I have some herbs that will give you strength for you and your baby." That night, as Ogechi lay on her mat, she thought about Ogechi's words. For the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. She whispered softly to her baby, "Maybe things will get better. Maybe there is still kindness in this world." And so, each day, Ogechi continued to endure her family's harshness. But now, she also had a friend in Ogechi who reminded her that she was not alone and that her child was a blessing. Even though her journey was difficult, Ogechi held on, determined to prove that love could grow even in the hardest of times. The days went by, and Ogechi grew closer to Ogechi. Every morning, after her chores, she would visit the kind old woman who welcomed her with open arms. Ogechi gave her herbs to keep her strong and often shared comforting stories about other women who had overcome great struggles. One rainy afternoon, as Ogechi sat with Ogechi, the older woman took her hand and looked into her eyes with warmth. "Ogechi," she began, "you are carrying not just a child, but also a new beginning. This child may be the one to bring light to your family. Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed. You are stronger than you know." Ogechi nodded, feeling tears gather in her eyes. It had been so long since anyone had spoken to her with kindness and understanding. She felt her heart swelling with gratitude and strength she hadn't known she possessed. Meanwhile, her family continued to show her no compassion. They would leave her to do all the housework, often making her cook meals she wasn't allowed to eat. She would prepare the yams, stew, and vegetables, then serve the food to her family, only to be left with whatever scraps they didn't want. Some nights, she went to bed hungry, her stomach empty, but her resolve stronger than ever. One evening, as she was serving dinner, her father spoke up. "This house is a place of honor, Ogechi. You have stained it with shame. You should be grateful we have not sent you away." Ogechi lowered her gaze, keeping silent. She had learned not to speak back, knowing it would only bring her more scorn. She placed a small bowl of soup in front of her father and stepped back, her hands trembling but her face calm. Her younger sister, Amaka, who was only a year younger than Ogechi, looked at her with a smirk. "Maybe if you worked even harder, people would forget you brought this shame upon us," she sneered. Ogechi felt a pang in her heart, but forced herself to stay strong. She thought of her baby, who she loved dearly, and remembered Ogechi's words. This child may be the one to bring light to your family. Later that night, as she lay on her mat, she whispered to her unborn child, I don't know how long I can bear this, but I will do it for you. You are my light, my hope. We will find a way, my little one." The next morning, Ogechi awoke to a surprising sight. Ogechi was standing at the front of their house, her face set with determination. She had brought a small basket of food and herbs, and her presence seemed to radiate strength. When Ogechi's mother saw her, she frowned and asked, "Mama Nkechi, what brings you here?" Mama Nkechi didn't hesitate. "I am here for Ogechi. This girl is a gift, and you are blessed to have her. I will not allow you to keep treating her this way." Ogechi's mother looked shocked, and her father, who had come outside to see what was happening, scowled. "This is our family matter," he snapped. "Ogechi has disgraced us. We owe her nothing." But Mama Nkechi raised her voice, her tone firm and unyielding. "You owe her love. You owe her respect. She is still your child, and she has a child of her own. If you do not want her, I will take her into my home." Ogechi's heart raced. She had never imagined that someone would stand up for her like this. Her family fell silent, unsure of how to respond. Finally, her father muttered, "If you want to take her, then take her. But remember, this is not a child of honor." Mama Nkechi turned to Ogechi, holding out her hand. "Come, my dear, you do not have to live like this. You deserve kindness and peace." Tears filled Ogechi's eyes as she took Mama Nkechi's hand, feeling a mixture of relief and sadness. She looked back at her family, hoping to see some sign of love or regret in their eyes, but they remained stone-faced. As Ogechi left the house that day, she felt a strange freedom she hadn't known before. She was stepping into a new life, leaving behind the pain of rejection and shame. She didn't know what the future would hold, but she was ready to face it with courage and hope. Walking alongside Mama Nkechi, Ogechi whispered to her unborn child, "We are free now, my little one. We have found someone who believes in us. Together, we will build a life of love and strength." And so, Ogechi began a new chapter, one where she would learn to stand tall, where she would no longer carry the weight of shame but the power of resilience. Days turned into weeks as Ogechi settled into her new life with Mama Nkechi. For the first time in a long while, Ogechi found herself laughing again, feeling a warmth and safety she had nearly forgotten existed. Mama Nkechi taught her how to prepare herbs for strength and wellness, showed her the secrets of growing strong, healthy crops, and more importantly, reminded her every day of her worth and the beauty of her unborn child. One afternoon, as Ogechi was helping Mama Nkechi prepare yam porridge, the older woman sat beside her and said, "Ogechi, my child, soon you will be a mother. You must believe in yourself and the strength you have inside. No matter what others say, you are worthy, and so is your child." Ogechi looked down at her growing belly and smiled, feeling both joy and worry. "Mama Nkechi," she whispered, "will my child be happy? Will people see them as a blessing, or will they carry the same shame that I do?" Mama Nkechi placed a comforting hand on Ogechi's shoulder. "Your child will be blessed and loved, Ogechi. They will carry a strength and light that cannot be dimmed by others' judgments. You are the one who will show them what it means to be strong." Just then, there was a loud knock at the door. Ogechi's heart leaped, and she looked at Mama Nkechi with worry. The older woman nodded calmly and went to open the door. Standing there was Ogechi's mother, looking both tired and ashamed. "Ogechi," her mother began, her voice hesitant. I have come to see you." Ogechi felt her heart twist with a mix of emotions. She hadn't expected her family to reach out to her, especially after they had cast her out. Slowly, she approached her mother, who lowered her gaze, avoiding Ogechi's eyes. "I heard from the villagers," her mother continued, "that you are staying with Mama Nkechi. I didn't think you would be able to manage on your own, but I see now you have found peace." Ogechi took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions steady. "Yes, Mama," she said quietly. "I am happy here. Mama Nkechi has taken care of me when no one else would." Her mother looked away, shame filling her eyes. "I was wrong, Ogechi. I was angry and afraid. But I have realized that you are still my daughter, and your child is still my grandchild. I can't change what I've done, but I would like to be a part of your life again." Ogechi's heart softened as she looked at her mother. She had longed for her family's love and acceptance for so long, but the scars of their rejection still lingered. She glanced at Mama Nkechi, who nodded gently, as if to say, "It is up to you." Ogechi took a deep breath and said, "Mama, I forgive you. I want my child to know their family, but I need to know that they will be loved and accepted no matter what. Her mother nodded, tears in her eyes. I promise, Ogechi, I will love this child and help you in any way I can. And so, from that day on, Ogechi's mother began to visit her often, bringing food and clothes for the baby, and even sit with Ogechi to help her with the chores. Slowly, Ogechi's siblings began to visit as well, each one apologizing in their own way. It wasn't easy for Ogechi to forgive, but Mama Nkechi reminded her that forgiveness could bring peace not only to her heart, but to her child's future. Finally, the day came when Ogechi went into labor. She was surrounded by love. Mama Nkechi held her hand. Her mother was by her side, and the midwives encouraged her with words of strength. With a final mighty push, Ogechi's baby was born, a beautiful, healthy boy with eyes that sparkled just like his mother's. As Ogechi held her child for the first time, she felt a deep, overwhelming love. She looked into his eyes and whispered, "Welcome, my little one. You are loved and you are free." From that day forward, Ogechi was no longer just a girl who bore shame. She was a mother who bore strength, love, and resilience. And in her village, her story became a tale of courage. A reminder that even in the darkest times, love and forgiveness could heal even the deepest wounds.